This is Boat Build.
All right, well, here we go. Welcome back to Boat Build right here on the Drift. You might remember this table. We showed it a couple of episodes ago. We picked it up, consignment, short money. I think we spent about 40 bucks on it. But what we're going to do is we're going to try to refinish this and bring it back to life. Get some bright work going on the boat. This is going to be one of the pieces of bright work that we really think is going to shine on our boat. So as you can see, it's in pretty rough shape here. This thing has seen some age. We're going to try to bring it back as best we can, and here are the tools we're going to use to do it. All right, I'll tell you straight out, I'm no refinishing expert, but the beauty of social media is this. We can find the experts. We reached out and we found some guys who know what they're doing when it comes to refinishing. They gave us some tips. First was material. Take a look. All right, so again, we checked with the experts, and this is key. He said get petted. 215 flagship is the way to go on this one. We're going to do multiple coats of this. Not inexpensive, just over $30 a quart. Got some paint thinner, some medium grip sandpaper for our palm sander, some very fine for the hand sanding, and then I just picked up a Purdy brush, middle of the line. You can go crazy on brushes. Some brushes recommended was $60. I'm not going to break my budget on a brush. I'm just going to keep this going. Keep it lubed up with the paint thinner. And then some sanding block tools, a little marker touch-up kit to the same color that we want to achieve, a little coarse brush for getting in the tight spots, and even some floss for those really tight spaces. The first thing we're going to do is take our palm sander, hit the whole area with some medium, get it down to the bare wood, soften it up a little bit. There you go, a little hit with a palm sander and medium grit paper just to get down to the wood. Teak is a light wood. You don't want to go too deep and start to indent into the wood. But all you want to do is get down there so you can get a good grip with our new finish. Okay, ready? Now a little bit of paint thinner to get that prep going. Get all that sawdust off there. Work it. You can also use a tackified rag if you have one. All right, what you want to do is stir up your Pettit Flagship 215 really well. Okay? And then you want to strain it. This is something I found online. There are a number of different strainers you can get. What I have is I have an old piece of screen. Okay? An old coffee mug, piece of screen, stirring it up. And this will get whatever dust and particles out of the paint that you can get. This will thin out the material as well. Stir and pour into your coffee mug. Okay? Now, there are a million ways to do this, and the real experts, feel free to comment on our Facebook page and correct me. I'm certainly open to it. Again, I'm not a professional finisher, and I'm not in a dust-free shop, and I don't have all the right tools. So we're going to improvise. So these are the side leaves of our table. We've already rubbed them down with a little bit of paint thinner, sanded them down, and now we're going to go with a coat. Very soft to the brush. Keep the brush moving, and we're going to do a very first light coat of varnish on this. So some of our experts on social media have told us 2 to 3 coats with sanding between. Some have told us 4 to 5 coats. Some who work on Hinkley's and such have simply said ad nauseum 2 coats of varnish with a light sand coat in between. We're just going to put a very light coat of varnish on this as our first coat. This process is the very reason why we are going to have limited bright work on our build. However, we want our bright work pieces to be the jewel of our build, to really pop out. So once you get the varnish on and it starts to dry just a little bit, I'll come back and I'll just stroke it out with my brush. Nice long strokes. After we've made sure we've got the varnish covering all the areas. Then I'll come back in about 20 minutes or so and look for drips. Again, disclaimer, there are experts out there and we certainly want to hear your comments, advisories, and suggestions on how to do this a better way. But when you're just a guy working in a garage trying to get your bright work up, this is the way we do it. All right, so here we go. What we're going to do between coats is we're going to take our 220 grit and just give it a light sand. Very light. This is just going to take some of the bubbles out. So with our 220 around the corners, don't go too hard around the corners because you'll end up getting down to the wood. But let me show you what we're achieving here. We're getting all these little bubbles down. Now a real expert, a real pro wouldn't have those bubbles coat to coat. But again, I ain't a real pro. So when you're done with that, a little bit of your paint thinner on a rag. Takes all the dust off. Let that dry a bit. And then you're ready for another coat. We've pulled off all the hardware for our piece. These are the sliding pins that hold the leaves, the hinges, hardware, bolts, and accessories. What I use to clean these is this magic stuff over here, Barkeeper's Friend. So what Barkeeper's Friend has in it is a key ingredient is oxalic acid. What that does is it cleans up metal parts incredibly. It's used on pots and pans in restaurants by chefs and the like. It cautions us to not mix with other chemicals such as bleach or ammonia. And for prolonged use, they recommend using gloves. What it'll do for us is clean up all of this rust and debris off of these parts to make them free and easy to use. So let's get to that. All right. So for us, after about 4 coats with light sanding in between, this is the result. And I think it's looking pretty good. Again, some of our friends have said 8 coats with sanding in between. Some have said ad nauseum. I think it comes down to whatever you like. So what we're going to do on this piece is we're going to polish it up a little bit, put the hardware back on, and I think it'll be a great centerpiece on our 30-foot ROS picnic boat build.
This is Boat Build, right here at The Drift. Presented by Sociable, original social media programming.